time now to take a look at what's grabbing headlines here in France. And joining me is Flo.
Hey,
Hi,
Aki.
Flo. Papers are continuing to focus on the fallout of the presidential election, unsurprisingly, and the next big rendezvous for voters is the parliamentary election in June. Yesterday, President-elect Emmanuel Macron unveiled a list of 428 candidates who are going to stand for his party, La République, en Marche.
428 of the 577 that will be the total, of course, 577 seats in the lower house of parliament. Who are these Macron candidates? We can see a photo of some of them here on the front page of Aujourd'hui en France, Le Parisien, which has some good stats as well. 52% of the candidates have never been elected. You can see the average age there, 46, and of course, as promised, half are women, half are men.
And tell us a little bit more about these candidates. They are quite diverse, aren't they, as far as their backgrounds are concerned?
Very diverse, quite a motley crew. Some examples are getting quite a lot of attention. There's a former female bullfighter, a gifted mathematician. There are a few familiar faces in French politics, a few celebrities, a few famous athletes, a very famous handball player, for instance. But mainly they're unknown, and so you can see here Le Figaro is a little bit making fun of this mix, I guess you could say, calling it the cocktail that's en marche, the cocktail that's moving forward.
And left-leaning paper Libération takes a look behind the scenes at how Macron actually chose those candidates.
At the heart of the Macron machine, you can see that on the front page of Libé today. This recruitment process was more like hiring in a private business than the traditional political vetting process, according to Libé. Now, keep in mind, 19,000 people initially wanted to be candidates for this parliamentary election. 19,000. People say that French people aren't interested in politics, but Libé says clearly they are. Now, choosing amongst these 19,000 was kind of like a reality TV show, you know, like The Voice or American Idol, where they essentially are calling it Macron Academy. He had to choose from them like a reality TV show. Now, in its editorial, Libé applauds Macron for this undeniable wind of change. These political neophytes could really tidy up French politics, give it some much-needed new blood. That being said, though, letting civil society into the political world doesn't always bring good results, according to Libé, especially this En Marche movement, which is against traditional party lines, party divisions, and it's solely united around this charismatic leader. If elected, Libé hopes that these Macron MPs will be careful not to become domesticated, uniform, a group of sheep, essentially, that will only say yes to Macron.
Now, of course, there is one man who wanted to run for Parliament on Macron's La République en Marche ticket, but he didn't make the cut, did he? That's former Socialist Prime Minister Manuel Valls.
Macron rejected Valls' desire to run under his banner. That being said, Macron said that La République en Marche won't present a candidate in Valls' constituency, so essentially giving him, I guess, a shot there. Now, Valls has drawn a lot of criticism this week for essentially being a turncoat. Earlier this week, he said that the Socialist Party is dead, and then he went asking Macron to run under his banner, only to be rejected. Now, this really puts Valls in a delicate position. You can read more about it here in L'Humanité. The Socialist Party has essentially started a procedure to potentially kick him out of the Socialist Party, and so you can see L'Humanité wondering, could he in the future be a stateless politician, a politician without a party?
And there are some papers that are quite critical of the way Macron's been dealt with by Valls has been dealt with by Macron, among them L'Opinion.
If we take a look at the editorial in L'Opinion, they're critical of Macron for the way he's been dealing with Valls, because essentially, he said a little bit, he said, no, you can't join my party, but we're not going to run against you in your constituency. So it's a little bit of no, a little bit of yes. That way of acting reminds L'Opinion of a certain François Hollande, who tried to please everyone and in the end pleased no one. Now, speaking of Hollande, there's an interesting cartoon of him on the front page of L'Opinion, where you can see him handing over power to Macron, and he says, of course, I will leave you my fleet of presidential vehicles. What are those vehicles? Well, you can see that little scooter. You might remember Hollande was caught by paparazzi on a scooter taking croissants to his girlfriend, and then you can see a paddle boat there. Why the paddle boat? Well, Jean-Luc Mélenchon back in the day described Hollande as the captain of a paddle boat, which is a pédalo in French, a captain of a paddle boat in the middle of a storm. and that image kind of stuck.
It's a lovely little cartoon. So finally from you, Flo, a word on the Eurovision Song Contest. And the final is this Saturday in Kiev.
And I know you're dying to know more about the French candidate.
Well,
you can find out all about her in Sud-Ouest. Who is Alma? Well, according to Sud-Ouest, the 28-year-old from Lyon is a well-accomplished woman. She's a singer, songwriter, pianist. She sings she speaks several languages. Perhaps she sings in several languages, and she's going to fight for first place with her song Requiem. Keep in mind, the last time France won the Eurovision was about 40 years ago. It's not really our strong suit. Now, Le Point finally takes a look behind the scenes, because Eurovision is much more than a song competition. According to Le Point, it's actually about geopolitics. There's a real diplomatic going on between the host Ukraine and Russia. The Russian singer was banned from traveling to Kiev, and so she sang her song in Crimea, a song called Flame is Burning.
We'll be watching that, I'm sure. Flo, thank you very much for a whiz through the French papers.